Are you looking to get ready, be prepared, and transform your financial future? Then you've come to the right place. This is the Get Ready Money podcast with Tony Stewart, where Tony has insightful conversations with financial experts who are changing the way we think about money. Catch up on the latest financial trends and hear practical advice from Tony and his expert guests so you can build healthy habits that work. Be empowered with tips for implementing small changes that can have a big impact on your financial future. So sit back and get ready to hear from today's guest.
Welcome to the Get Ready Money podcast, changing the way we think about money. I'm your host, Tony Stewart. When we think about legacy, we often focus on wealth transfer, but what about the stories, values, and moments that define a life? Today, I'm joined by Kerri Fernsworth, founder of Authentic Legacy Video, to talk about how storytelling can bring a personal touch to legacy planning and deepen financial connections across generations. Kerri, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Tony. I really appreciate and feel honored to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're here. You're doing some amazing things and can't wait to, share with the audience. So, let's start at the beginning. What is your origin story and how did it lead you to start Authentic Legacy Video?
Yeah, well, this converges business, film, and family for me. My dad is a storyteller. He has always been a storyteller, and I started recording him just with audio on my phone in my audio app on my phone while we were driving. And, because he was telling stories and lots of them I had heard already as a kid and just completely tuned out, as we do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I know you were selling papers in Boston. Okay, blah, blah, blah. But it really just, as I have aged and recognized my dad will die at some point, perhaps very soon, it really just landed in a different way at this time of my life. So I realized, yeah, I need to preserve these. I have a horrible memory. So for me, really tuning in and paying attention, and the recording also really helped me ask questions and recognizing, oh, this is something I can share with my brothers and something I want to keep and really pay attention. So from that, I started to record my parents on film as well. And I had a business with my ex making marketing videos for financial advisors. So I recognized there was also a need for financial advisors to serve their clients in this way. And as they do wealth legacy planning, that really story legacy planning is something they can add into their services, or, maybe if they're already doing something like this, to outsource some of that.
Yeah, well, I think that's really important. It's not something that we talk about as legacy planning, because legacy planning usually involves the very dry components of, let's get the documents in order and those things. But a lot of times, is people are thinking about so much more when they're thinking about their legacy, but it never gets boiled down into the document. So it's pretty
Yeah.
incredible.
And I don't want to discount the importance of those documents. And since I've been more immersed in this world, my parents don't have documents. So like that structure, I know what I will have to deal with at some point, and I don't look forward to that. But at least I have stories.
Yeah, and as you point out, it's the combination of both that's
Mhm.
important because the legal documents are what make things actually happen,
Yeah,
while the stories are give it context. Um,
right.
s- so, let's talk a little bit more about storytelling. Why is storytelling an important part of legacy planning?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, storytelling is legacy planning. From the world I come from, that really, as you live, you are living your legacy. You're writing the book of your life. It's a first draft. That's the good news. And, kind of reflecting back on your life is an opportunity, I would say maybe to narrate it, to edit it in a way, to kind of, you can't go back and change things, but to say, to your family members, here's the context of why I made the choices I made, and give some understanding and empathy, an opportunity for your family members to have empathy for you about those choices, I think is interesting and helpful. And really, my job is to help people make peace with their own life, make peace with their family members. And that comes through empathy and understanding. And empathy and understanding comes through storytelling.
Yeah, well, I love that. And I think that this is a great way to do it because, you were talking about memories earlier, our memories are faulty.
Hmm.
Many studies have shown that we don't remember things accurately or we remember certain parts of it. So this is a great way to look back and to remember somebody that goes way beyond, a photo album because you actually, it's funny. I was thinking of something like this is, we were at a memorial for my sister-in-law's father, who I didn't know really well. We sort of knew him. And of course, there's all these pictures that they show at
Hmm.
funerals. And I was thinking, boy, it would be nice if there was a narrator to give us a sense of the context of these pictures. Because for most people in the audience, they were just random pictures of people, and we didn't even recognize him, because we knew him later in life. Which one was he in the pictures when he was a kid? So,
Right. Yeah, it's like the web that brings things together is the story. And I've started recording my dad as well, showing me photos and realizing, oh, this is my grandma on her honeymoon. Oh, wow. And that exactly just gives context of, oh my gosh, she went to Europe on her honeymoon. This isn't just a beautiful landscape that she purchased maybe somewhere, but she actually saw this mountain in Spain. How cool.
yeah, and then you can, attach a memory to it. It's like, ooh, that's where, like you said, that's where they honeymooned, or,
Mhm.
this is where they went on their first vacation or whatever. So, I think it is an important part of legacy planning. So one of the things that you talk about is that it's multi-generational, which is, something that financial planning firms struggle with is, multi-generational planning. So how do family legacy videos benefit all generations?
Yeah, I think it's really about connection. I remember my grandma calling and my mom made me talk to her, and she lived in another state, and I didn't have a huge relationship with her. I didn't have a lot of points of connection, and just being kind of panicked as a kid of like, what do I say? I don't know what to say to grandma. She asked me about school, and I want to have a connection with her, but I just don't know her. And I think really facilitating advisors are in such a unique position to facilitate really meaningful intergenerational connections that might not otherwise happen. That really, observing like my teenage nieces and cousins interacting with their grandparents is such an interesting process because they're on their phones and they want to connect, they want to ask questions, but like, where do they start? What do they ask? Is grandma, does she want to answer them? I don't know. So having a more formalized process just gives more of a container and a structure for that facilitation to happen of meaningful intergenerational connection.
Yeah, well, that's super important. And I think you highlight something too that can be a challenge is for people to have those multi-general conversations. A lot of us grew up with our parents where it's like you don't talk about money, you just, there's certain things that are just not talked about. Are you finding that the legacy videos are a good way for people to start to open up about some of these conversations?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I started to, and this is all, fairly new for me, but I am experimenting with some of these conversations with my own family to start. And I asked my aunt and uncle individually about, yeah, their wealth legacy. And it's fascinating what people will tell you, will tell a third party, that it's sometimes a lot easier to communicate to someone who is an outside observer. And, it's my family, but it's my aunt and uncle. It's not directly. I'm not going to be one of their heirs. So having a third party facilitator is helpful in having those conversations and about money and about what people mean to each other too. Like it sometimes can be easier to express indirectly in a way what you mean to me.
That's great because, that is one of the things that many people struggle with. And I know as an advisor, it's like, well, if you don't tell your kids, how are they really going to know? So it's like, you need something to give them the context and to kickstart the conversation that it's okay to have it. And you want to have those conversations while, let's say with aging parents, while they're still competent and able to have those conversations. So
Right.
it's a
Right.
great tool. So,
Yeah.
as we talk about it, is how are you finding that your work helps advisors build that trust and retain the multi-generational clients? We started to talk about that, but can you go a little bit deeper on that?
Yeah, I think really, like you're saying, engaging in those conversations early and bringing people in a really meaningful and authentic way. It's very awkward to try to reach out to family members when someone has died. That's just not the time to do it. And I know advisors really want to preserve their own work with families, and they have provided so much value to a family, and often the next generation won't understand the value that's been provided and won't see the value to them even of continuing that relationship. So, really, for advisors to have as a business development opportunity and also a very meaningful service provision for their clients, to be able to engage those conversations early and really be that human connection hub for families to be present and offer something really meaningful for families to come together. So one idea I have, like for example, I know there's, some compliance issues with gifting, especially around broker dealers. For RIAs, my understanding is from the SEC is that you can gift for special occasions, and the gifting limit is does not apply as it does for general. So one idea is that advisors could, for example, do a 50th anniversary gift for a client and invite the whole family, get input from the kids on what questions they want to have asked in the interview. I edit it into a fun little mini documentary. And then that's an opportunity, really a business development opportunity for advisors to bring in friends, family, have an event, make it really fun, and just develop those relationships in a really natural and authentic way.
Yeah, well, I love that. So, another thought that I have is how, so I was a fee-based insurance planner for a few years, working predominantly with financial planners. And how it worked is I was just compensated by the firm. And so my services were just an extension of what they provided. So, do you see that legacy videos could fit in that way into an overall estate or financial plan?
For sure, absolutely. If this is something that you can build into your fees, absolutely. That's something that makes sense to me for sure.
Yeah, and I would say to the advisors out there, if you're thinking about all these different things, the tech stack and all these different things, is that, that movement is going beyond it, that we are seeing a shift to behavioral finance, to some of these other things, that this is definitely a great way to extend the value and to separate yourself in how you serve your clients to go way beyond investment allocation and those things. So love what you're doing. And now it's time for what I call the Get Ready Hot Take Trio.
Great.
3 quick questioners to help our listeners change the way they think about money. So the first one is, what myth are you trying to break about legacy planning?
I would say that the idea that legacy planning is about what happens after you die. I think it's really about living life more fully, being more engaged and aware of the choices that you have made yourself and reflecting on those, and also communicating those to the people you love. while you're alive, while you have the opportunity to do that yourself.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that is such a different way to look about to look at it is think about, okay, legacy planning doesn't, is once you're dead, that's it. You can't add any more to it.
Hmm.
That you should have the conversations while you're able to make sure that everybody is on the same page, understands your wishes, but it's a gift that you're giving to your children and your grandchildren because, like you talked about, is it provides the memories, which are so much more important. The money is nice. The money can be nice. I'm not discounting, the value of an inheritance, but for most people, it's not really about the money. It's about remembering. And so it's a great way to do this. So the next question is, knowing what you know now about money and legacy planning, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to stay curious about the unfolding of my own life. I thought I knew where things were going. I'm mid 40s now. I don't know where things are going still. And yeah, I have always been a really curious person. And I think just having the confidence to know that being curious will keep me safe and sane.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. And I got to say, as I age, it does become more clear that you know less and less every year, even though you may gain wisdom in many areas, is that overall there are more things that you realize I don't really know. So, it's wonderful advice. So, the last question is,
Yeah.
what is your number one tip for changing the way we think about money, especially when it comes to legacy planning?
Yeah, I think it's really the money that you have or that you don't have tells a story. And really, your story is about your perception of that. For example, my parents they're not going to die with a lot of money, but my dad tells me a lot of stories of adventures he's had. He's had a very rich and interesting life, and his perception of that, he was working for his family when he was a teenager. He was earning money. There's a lens that he could look at that story with that he would feel sorry for himself, but he really doesn't. And that story, that perception of his story of having enough and appreciating the rich adventures he's had in his life, that's the money story that he's telling.
I love that. And I think that's something that's oftentimes missed is we think, well, a fulfilled life is having a boatload of money. And
Hmm.
it's not really that. It is about the memories we make. Money just empowers us to be able to have control and to be able to do certain things. So, reframing that, I think, does hit home with people outside the financial services community because the majority of people, we may be surprised in the industry that they don't really care about all these things. They don't care about comparing different 401k sub accounts. They just want to be comfortable in retirement. And like you said, it's that perception. Your dad's perception was like, well, I had enough money to live, raise my kids, and be comfortable. So that's achieving, his financial goals. So that's wonderful advice.
Yeah, yeah.
So where can people learn more about you and Authentic Legacy Video?
Yeah, my website is authenticlegacyvideo.com. And I also have on there just a free guide if people want to give their email address and download, really designed to engage multi-generational DIY, asking questions and just start those conversations yourself.
That's awesome. And for everybody watching and listening, as always, there will be links to Kerri's website and social media profiles so you can get in touch with her and find out more about her and Authentic Legacy Video. So, Kerri, thanks again for joining us today to share your insights.
Thank you so much, Tony. I'm really happy to have been invited. Thank you.
And thank you everyone as always for tuning in to this episode of the Get Ready Money podcast. If you learned something today to change the way you think about money and legacy planning, please be sure to subscribe and to tell a friend. And you can also visit my website at tonystewart.com to join the Get Ready movement, receive podcast updates, and get tools to help you take control of your financial life. Until next time, let's change the way we think about money.